Hi, everyone. This is Lad Dilgard again with Stand and Speak. So we have an election coming up in November, as you may have heard. And we're going to run a series of episodes on the track record of the Biden administration, Ohio Senator Sherrod Brown, and some other elected officials. We're going to talk about, are you better off now than you were in 2020? Before the Biden administration and the liberal avalanche of Marxist agenda items came flowing through. We're going to talk about track records on a number of issues: economic performance, joblessness, inflation, the border, crime, foreign policy, trade, the health of U.S. manufacturing, the health of U.S. businesses. We're going to talk about the mental health and the success of our children and schools, and a number of other issues. Large majorities of the population right now in early 2024 are pretty dissatisfied. If you go onto Real Clear Politics and look at Joe Biden's approval ratings, it has been strongly negative for a long time. Joe Biden's likability is way down from where he was right before the election in November of 2020. Majority of Americans thought he was likable back then. I knew better. Many of us knew better. We knew he had been in Washington for 40 years. We knew he was a jerk. We knew he molested and harassed a staffer, Tara Reade. We knew he had been on the wrong side of just about every foreign policy decision for the last 40 years. But the American people wanted a change. They thought he was going to bring the country together. It was going to be less divisive. And we got Joe Biden. We got trillions of dollars of new spending. We got incompetence in a cabinet that I thought in my lifetime I would never, ever see. We got open borders. We've got millions of unvetted illegal immigrants moving through our borders, showing up in our cities that we're paying for. But you know what is interesting? There are some elite Americans who are okay with this. They're okay with the Biden administration. And there was a poll recently by Rasmussen, Scott Rasmussen's organization, and it was written up by Kimberly Strassel in the Wall Street Journal. I'm going to read from that. The powerful, the intellectual, and the lazy have long said that the divide in this country is between rich and poor. They divvy up Americans among traditional lines related to wealth: college, no college, white collar, blue collar. This framing has given us the diploma divide and the new suburban voter and the hillbilly elegy. But really, it's about a split is better, the chasm between a disconnected elite and average Americans. This is becoming a them versus us electorate in election. Political candidates take heed, is what Kimberly Strassel says. So what this means is that people who are earning more than $150,000 a year and living in a high density area are considered the elites. And then there's everybody else. So think about that. $150,000 a year or more. They're living in a dense urban area. We know who these people are. A lot of them have Ivy League degrees. A lot of them have advanced degrees. Among these elite, 74% say their finances are getting better compared with 20% of the rest of voters. So 20% of us regular folks out here, we think our finances are not better, but 74% of those elites think they are. A lot of them are in government jobs. A lot of them are in executives of woke organizations. 88% among elites who are Ivy League graduates think their finances are better than when Biden took office. Now, Biden takes care of his own. He takes care of the rich. He takes care of the elites. They're all connected. So 40%, the elite give President Biden an 84% approval rating compared with 40% of non-elites. Large majorities of elites have a favorable view of professors, 89%, journalists, 79%, lawyers and union leaders, 78%, and members of Congress, 67%. So they trust the credentialed class. These elites trust the people who have multiple diplomas and licenses on their walls and are in an official government capacity. The rest of us, we don't trust them. We've been lied to a lot over many decades about many different things that's cost us. 2/3 of the elites say they'd prefer a candidate who said teachers and educational professionals, not parents, should decide what children are taught. How about that? Let's just turn over the raising of our children to the elite credentialed class. Now, what's that remind you of? That's communism 101. That's Cuba, that's the Soviet Union, that's communist China. Set aside the parents, move the children back over to the government control and let the government decide what they're taught, what they eat, what they're going to do in their day-to-day life. 50% of elites believe the U.S. provides too much individual freedom, compared with 60% of voters believe there is too much government control. So think about that. Half the elites say that we have too much freedom, whereas 60% of the rest of us are saying we have too much government. That is a big, big divide. 77% of elites support strict rationing of gas, meat, and electricity to fight climate change versus 28% of the rest of us folks. 77%. They want to ration how much hamburger you can buy at the store in the name of climate change, right? More than 2/3 of elite Ivy graduates favor banning things like gas-powered cars and stoves and inessential, according to them, air travel in the name of the environment. More than 70% of average voters say they'd be unwilling to pay more than $100 a year in taxes or costs for climate, compared with 70% of elites who say they pay from $250 or whatever it takes to fight climate change. They have lots of money. They can afford a Tesla. They can afford solar panels to power their homes or whatever. But they don't give a crap about the rest of the people. They don't care about the truck driver who has to replace his multi-$100,000 tractor trailer rig with an electric vehicle, which doesn't even exist in California. They don't care. Just do it, because climate change. And climate change, as we remember, is nothing short of just communism and an avenue to achieve communism that's been voted out. Many American voters, according to Rasmussen and according to Kimberly Strassel in the Wall Street Journal, many American voters feel helplessly under assault from policies that ignore their situation and of values. They feel the system is rigged by elites that care more about the globe than them. So let's get into the presidential election again. The continued appeal of Donald Trump. This man is a walking promise to stick it to the establishment. Never mind that most of the party's establishment endorsed him, but that's another story. This lack of trust and cultural divide are no healthier than the simpler rich-poor split, but they're there. Polling suggests that most Americans are looking for a leader who promises to return power to the people. They are looking for a freedom agenda. So we could go on about the elite versus the non-elite divide. We've stuck it to young people on trades because who cares about them? Who cares about the future auto mechanic, the future plumber or electrician? Let's give student loan forgiveness and free money to the French literature professor who's the daughter of a Yale graduate and goes to Oberlin to study feminist theory and naval introspection. Let's just give them all the money. Let's give them all the attention. And then what do we end up with? We end up with a shortage of tradespeople. We end up with a depressed young working class. We end up with a labor participation rate that's the lowest in 30 years or 40 years or whatever. What do you expect? So the election coming up is going to be a we versus they election. The elites have kind of rigged the elections with Russia collusion and hiding the Hunter Biden laptop evidence of corruption and many other things over the years. we've got to decide as a people, just like they did in Andrew Jackson's day, just like they did in other eras, in that we have to decide, are we going to let the elites dictate our lives? Or are we going to let them ration our hamburger and force us into electric vehicles that we clearly don't want and that don't do the job we need them to do? Let's make a decision on that. So there'll be more coming. That's my take for it today. I think the we versus they polling from Rasmussen is super interesting. I think Kimberly Strassel hit the nail on the head with that. But something to think about. This has been Lad Dilgard with Stand and Speak. Thank you.